Welcome back. Well, it's a big day in terms of individual stocks as well. So let's get straight to it. Ekta is joining in first up to tell us the latest on Cipla. Ekta, over to you.
Thanks for that. Well, yes, Cipla, came out with its numbers a while ago, but they did hold their conference call, which took place on Thursday evening. So a couple of important takeaways was that $220 to $225 million would be a normalized base for the US business. Margins would be for the full year around 24%. Advair generic and Abrexon generic, which are two important drugs, are likely to get pushed to FY26 versus FY25 earlier. One of the other key drugs, which is the inhaler Symbicort, which is filed from Indore, where they do have US FDA issues, is likely to now only get approval in FY27. So there are a couple of these launches which are now getting pushed forward. However, there is an undisclosed product which could probably make up for all of this delay, which could be in Q1 of FY25, according to analysts. Now, the additional piece of news is that Samina Hamid has resigned from the position of executive VC of the company. She will continue as a non-executive director, liable to retire by rotation. Now, we did reach out to the management. A couple of sources, however, told us who are close to the company that the reason for this particular change is not because of anything to do with a stake sale, but it is more to transition Cipla to becoming a professionally managed company, maybe something on the lines of Tata, and hence this particular change took place. Cipla told us with regards to this that the strategy is aimed at Cipla being a fully professionally managed company. It really won't dent the stock, considering that Umang Vohra and his team have been making majority of the decisions for many quarters now.
Okay, all right, Ekta, thanks a lot for that. Well, I'm looking at Vedanta and the numbers were better than expected. We already had 40-45% of the EBITDA in the price because of Hindustan Zinc, but the remainder of the numbers as well looked quite good. And that's why the consolidated EBITDA is much better than what our poll threw up. Now, when you're looking at Vedanta, X of Hindustan Zinc, you look at two broad sectors. One is the aluminium segment as well as the oil and gas segment. And both of them beat estimates, but there was a big beat on the aluminium EBITDA business. And the reason is the cost of production has come down drastically. The management has repeatedly said that they're looking at backward integration. They're focused on reducing cost. And in the last 6 quarters or so, the cost of production for the aluminium business has come down by around $900 per ton. So that's a thumbs up as well. The problem is the net debt had gone up a little bit, but that was more or less on expected lines because they have a big capex that's currently underway. And also they paid out dividend of close to around 5,000 crores out. So going with green on this one. The only problem is over the weekend, you saw the dollar strengthened a little bit, which is not very, very good for base metals. But these numbers looked quite good. But Ekta, coming right back at you, tell us more about Sun Pharma.
Well, I expect the stock to be in the green today because Taro came out with a very good set of numbers. The sales were up 13% year on year. What really surprised the street was the operating margins, which came in at 10.8% versus 1% on a year-on-year basis, and the net income at $20.2 million. Q on Q as well, margins were 10.8 versus 3.2%. So it's a multi-quarter high when it came to margins. This would be a positive read-through for Sun Pharma that comes out with its numbers on the 31st of Jan. Elara, for example, says that 70%, Taro's 70% EBITDA beat, according to them, equals to a 3% beat on the consolidated EBITDA estimate for Q3 FY24 for Sun Pharma. Hence, we could expect Sun to be in the green.
All right. Ekta, thanks very much for that. So that's Pharma in focus. Well, financial heavyweights also reported numbers. So Shriram in focus and Chola in focus as well. Abhishek is here with details on both. Abhishek, morning.
Morning, Prashant. Looks like rural economy is really doing well, at least for CV finances. Take a look at Shriram Finance. Disbursals are up 29% YOY and about 9.2% sequentially. The AUM growth is better than analyst estimate, coming in at 20.7% YOY and about 5.7% sequentially. Kotak Securities was estimating a loan growth of about 19% YOY and 4% quarter on quarter. Asset quality continues to improve for Shriram Finance. Gross NPA is down to 5.66 versus 5.8% in the previous quarter. Net interest margin in this scenario has actually expanded both YOY and quarter on quarter, now close to being at 9%. In terms of PNL versus poll, the NI is ahead of our poll while PAT is below our poll. Chola Mandalam, the asset quality is one of the best that you are seeing in last 3 years, that is 12 quarters in a row, and gross NPA ratio is now below 4% level at 3.92% versus 4.07% in the previous quarter. Disbursements growth are at 27.5% 7.5% YOY and about close to 4% sequentially. The AM growth is pretty strong at about 36% YOY and about 5.5% sequentially, slightly below Kotak Securities' estimate of 39% YOY and 7% sequentially. In terms of P&L, the NI is a beat with respect to Kotak Securities' estimate, and the PAT is also a beat over there. Back to you.
All right, thanks a lot for that. So both Shriram Finance and Cholamandalam looking good, asset quality strong. Let's hop across to Reema now. She's tracking Tata Technologies. Reema, how did it look?
Well, first numbers since their stellar debut. Well, it's a steady set of numbers, no fireworks. The company's reported a revenue growth of 0.9% quarter-on-quarter. On a year-on-year basis, it's low double-digit 13.4% year-on-year revenue growth. In constant currency terms, it's an 11.6%. But as BofA points out, the revenue growth has slowed down compared to the first half revenue growth of 15.5%, and this is due to the ramp down of their second largest customer. Margins have expanded to 18.3%, profits are up 6.1%, but there is a slowdown in their top line and that ramp down of their second largest customer. So I'm going to go with red. BofA has a neutral rating on the stock, target price 1250.
Okay, all right, going with red on that one. Let's hop across to Abhishek. He's here to tell us about SBI Cards and AU Small Finance Bank. Abhishek.
Well, it looks like SBI Card had a weak quarter, especially with the fact that their revolver rate is actually declined to an all-time low of 23% versus 24% in the previous quarter. Net interest margin also continues to remain on the lower side. It is at historical low of 11.3% when compared to 11.6% YOY and about 11.3% sequentially. Now, their annualized credit cost that continues to remain elevated and a pain point for them. So, 8-quarter high in terms of annualized credit cost at about 7.5%, and for last 12 quarters or even more, their credit cost has been north of 4%, which I have not seen with any other lenders or financial entity. Asset quality deteriorated massively. Gross NPA in value-wise increased by 19% quarter-on-quarter. Net NPA increase in value-wise was more than 25% quarter-on-quarter. So gross NPA ratio and net NPA ratio have increased on a sequential basis. In terms of their performance, the P&L NI is above Yes Securities estimate. However, the PAT is below Yes Securities estimate. Back to you.
All right, Abhishek, thanks very much for that. Will numbers for the quarter provide any relief for IEX? The stock has been falling non-stop. Vivek is here with more. Vivek.
Well, good morning. Absolutely right. So, against the backdrop of, the significant selling pressure the stock witnessed in the last couple of weeks due to the overhang of market coupling implementation, IEX managed to go ahead and deliver a steady operational performance. This was largely aided by good volume growth. The volume growth for quarter 3 was almost 17% on a year-on-year basis. Revenues higher by 15% on a year-on-year basis, coming in at slightly over 115 crores. Now, the EBITDA margins have expanded by 200 basis points and profitability higher by 18% on a year-on-year basis. The key risk and the key overhang continues to remain the implementation of market coupling. The final decision will be taken by CERC post all of the stakeholder comments that have come in. The con call highlights, the management said that due to increased sell-side liquidity, the average rate has actually cooled to ₹5 per kilowatt hour in Q3. Along with that, what's actually happened is that the company is contemplating the launch of the Indian Carbon Exchange on the GIFT platform. They believe this too could aid volumes going forward.
All right, thanks a lot for that. Well, Abhishek is back with us to talk about Piramal Enterprises. Abhishek, how did it look?
They have sold their stake of 20% in Shriram Investment Holdings to Shriram Ownership Trust. So the consideration will be about 1,440 crore odd. Deal is expected to be completed by 31st of March 2024. This is the second major divestment that they have done in Shriram Group. So remember that last year in June 2021 they had sold about 8.5% in Shriram Finance. So now they'll be exiting the Shriram Group completely with respect to their holdings. Back to you.
All right.
AU Small Finance.
I think we've got the last one, which is AU Small Finance Bank, which also we need to focus on. Abhishek, back to you.
Well, asset quality saw a bit of hiccup over there. Slippages increased to 403 crore versus 349 crore in the previous quarter, which is an upside of 15.5% quarter-on-quarter. In the con call, management did mention that some of the credit card and unsecured products are led to the rise in the slippages. Annualized slippage ratio was at 2.4% versus 2.2% in the previous quarter. Asset quality gross NPA in absolute value increased by 7.5% quarter-on-quarter, and as a ratio it increased increased by almost 7 basis points on a sequential basis. In terms of P&L versus poll, the NII was ahead of our poll. However, on account of elevated provision and deterioration in asset quality, PAT was below our poll. Back to you.
Oh, okay. All right, Abhishek, thanks a lot for that. Well, here's a quick recap of all the top stocks that we just discovered. The one that with positive news flow include Vedanta, Sun Pharma, Shriram Finance, Cholamandalam Investments, IEX and Pyramid Enterprises. While ones with negative news flow include Cipla, Tata Technologies, SBI Cards and AU Small Finance Bank. All right, well, that's about the equity markets, but let's tell you what went on in the commodity markets overnight. Manisha joins us to help us out with just that. Morning, Manisha.
Morning, Nigel. Thank you for that. I'll start with the crude oil prices because we're trading at an 8-week highs onto this one. We've posted 2 weeks of straight gains onto this, and there are now supply concerns coming in from Red Sea. There has been a Houthi missile hitting a Trafigura-operated fuel tanker, and markets also are looking at the Russian refineries now going in for maintenance under repair after drone attacks. So there are some supply concerns adding premium to prices. Is the reason not only have we crossed the 8, but we did see 84 plus kind of levels early in the Asian markets today. The street is also reacting to the positive U.S. economic growth. China's stimulus also seems to be supporting. And then money managers also have raised their net longs on crude futures and options. The next thing that the street will watch out for is the OPEC and allies meeting, which is on 1st of Feb. And then you also have the U.S. Fed meetings this week also in focus.
All right. Manager, thanks very much for that. We'll take a quick commercial break here. We'll come back with some fundamental stock analysis. Deepan Mehta will help us do that. We'll also have the management of Titagarh Wagons joining in to talk about their expectations from the budget. There is some other news flow we want to address there as well. Stay with us.